I'm not a criminal, but I've played a guilty part in the modern sense that one pretends that love is original. I wrote a book and I will call it something cynical. Ooh. The story's slow, the hero does not change, and if you can, then you won't anyway. Instead his foes and lovers all become identical.
I'm looking for string. I pull out my, tight the fast call and pull out my tooth. Found, is this good? Go show Dad. Tell him, is that good? Okay, too wide. What about this? No. Ever ask him if, ask him if these will work. I'm gonna go ask him. Ask him if a bungee cord would work. She said yes.
The floss?
No, to use it for my tooth.
Kersting, it's gonna hurt. Are you crazy?
I'm not crazy. You're crazy.
Well, that thing's hanging on by a thread. Literally, no pun intended.
Should we actually do it? And Eva's gonna float on that motorcycle. Oh shoot.
Okay, we're ready.
No! Don't go, Eva, please. I'll tell you when to go.
Kersting, you gotta face that way. Okay.
No, don't. No! Don't go! Don't go! Don't go! No! I'm glad it broke. I don't want to do that. I'm quitting. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Deactivate pod.
You can. You do it all the time. Okay, here it goes. Here it goes.
My name's Harrison, and I'm 7 years old, and I have type 1 diabetes. I just call it type 1. Diabetes is too long. I don't want to have type 1 because it's just, it doesn't feel right. Because I have to go to the nurse and none of my friends does.
So what we could do is we could do a 30-70 so that it covers the stuff that you've got right away.
Okay.
Or we could do a 20-80.
I think 20/80.
Okay, is that what you want to do?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm okay with that. And you know why? Because you're low right now. What's his number?
He is 87.
Okay, so you're popping up. That's a good thing. So let's do 30-70, but we're going to extend it over 3 hours, okay? And what did we say we were going to do?
30/70.
Okay, 30-70. Okay, so you're going to get a half a unit up front, and the rest you're going to get over 3 hours.
Okay.
Okay? So we're going to keep that on you because it's going to keep delivering insulin over the next 3 hours.
Like a year ago, I got a Dexcom. which that reads my blood sugar, which is glucose. This is my text combo. Ba, ba, ba. Boop. Click it, and you can see my blood sugar. What? Just one thing. I'm low. Go down, Mom. Okay. And here, can I have my phone back?
Would you want to tell the camera?
Oh, so if I'm low like I'm right now, it will get red, and it will start beeping and alarming me. If I get too high in this yellow zone, it will start alarming too. If I get down here, I'll probably pass out. And I'm in the middle of a film right now, so I'd usually go tell Mom, but lucky my brother's nearby. Let me go hand this to him and let him tell Dad. Hand this to Dad. Some people don't want to play with me because I have type 1. They think it's disease and it will spread. So that's why I wish I don't have it. But my best friends know, my BFFs know it doesn't spread. They still play with me. Really good at anyone. Yeah. Sometimes I can't play with my friends because I'm low. Then I have to pretty much sit on a bench the whole recess, watching my friends play. I'm okay.
Okay. Leave Froggy dog.
Her name is Katie. Like the other frog we had that almost drowned in a pool last year.
Yes. Okay, well let's go over to the chickens then.
Ooh. Okay, where's the cup? Shoot, there's no cup. Okay, I'll just use this. See, they're already waiting for it. If I feel different, it feels like I'm left out. But I'm gonna have it the rest of my life. And I could overpower it because I'm strong and powerful, better than type 1. We did a pod! I don't feel different. Look. I feel like the same. I'm just saying this is my hobby. I love making PB&Js. But Dad likes mayo on his PB&Js. Mayo. You remember that white sauce? Oh, yeah. So now I must find a plate. No plate. So I must just grab a plate. A magic plate just came down to me. Now I must put the peanut butter and the jelly. Yum.
All right, you guys ready to have some fun? Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Tony BRUHN.
I am Mexican Hawaiian, which I know is a confusing pizza. I know that. I know that. I'm Mexican Hawaiian, but I look like a Native American pug, and that bothers me. Those of you laughing, fuck you. I do think it's time in society for us to start legalizing drugs for EMS workers. I think that would solve a lot of problems. I just want to see a heart surgeon save multiple lives in record time because he's allowed to do cocaine. Can you imagine that shit's getting ready for surgery? He's like, scalpel, line. Let's save some lives! Be awesome.
I like it.
Gotta do what you gotta do.
Yeah. How much do those things cost?
What, the camera?
No, the clappy thingy.
Too much.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. I was working at a nonprofit a while back for the visually impaired and blind, and that goal that time for those group of students was try and get them out of their comfort zone. So I told them, if I try something that I'm afraid of, you guys have to try something you're afraid of. So I was deathly afraid of public speaking, but I've always wanted to try stand-up comedy. I tried it, I fell in love immediately, and this might sound mean to say, but I have no idea if those kids did anything with their lives because I fell in love with comedy so fast.
Fun fact about me, guys, I'm legally blind, I can't see a lot of shit, it's a fact. I know Braille, which is kind of cool. They taught me that at a young age. That being said, the scariest thing I've ever read in Braille is do not touch. I don't know why you're laughing, that shit's scary. Imagine that shit, it's like, do not touch. Fuck! What have I done?
I got two different eye conditions. One's called retinoschisis. The other one's called keratoconus. Retinoschisis, it's in the name, it's got to do with your retinas. I was born with both of them. The retinas didn't fully develop. Keratoconus has to do with your corneas. It doesn't really affect me anymore because I'm used to it now. I'm 31 years old, I've been living with it for a while, so I don't think it really hit me because when you're a kid, you don't think about that kind of stuff. Being told you're blind and you can still see colors and stuff. It's like, I'm not blind, and you gotta tell the eye doctors, but the eye doctors don't have anything good to say. I was like, that doesn't look good. I'm like, well, you don't look good, man. I'm fucking 7. And I get it, I can see less than people, I can't drive. I gotta be real close up to things to see them. I think the hardest part today is that people don't believe that I'm visually impaired because I can maneuver around and I can tackle stairs like everyone else, you know? I think that was probably the biggest thing is because I don't stumble around for someone else, I'm faking it now, you know? Like I didn't overcome or adapt to whatever I had to go through, so I think that's the biggest thing that really goes through. Oh, and also dating sucks.
Man, I'm jealous of the awkward dates, I'm not gonna lie. I can't date, bro. I'm brown and legally blind, it's awful. I can't tell anyone that they look good because I'm legally blind. They don't believe me. You look really pretty tonight. How would you know? I'm like, oh, it's good talking to you, bitch, I'm out of here.
I found that the best thing for me personally was to just talk about my life. I think personal experience trumps everything. The more you can relate to other people with your personal experience is probably the best way to go because no one can steal your experience from you.
Personally, the scariest thing about me being legally blind is eye contact, because I never know I'm making it. Have you guys ever been into a fight you didn't know you were a part of? It's terrifying. I was on the bus one time and some crackhead's like, what the fuck are you looking at? And in my head, I was like, oh shit, someone's in trouble. He was like, I'm talking to you. I'm like, that guy better answer him. He's like, I'm gonna beat your ass. And now he's talking to me. Just for the record, no one beat my ass. This is a birthmark. I'd rather have people think I got beat up though, because someone at karaoke the event was like, so what made you get a face tattoo? It's like, what part of this makes you think I wanted it, bro? If anything, it looks like someone tried to rub it off, like, I should go this shit.
Crushing in a big show is probably one of the better drugs you'll ever feel. It's worth every bad show you've ever done, every bad open mic, every time you've got gypped on the road or some time on the road. You have one really good paying set in a club where audience is there and you are on point the whole time. There's no better feeling. I used to have this thought, this was a few years ago, what would 12-year-old me think of me right now? A lot of self-reflection came from doing stand-up comedy. A lot of stuff I didn't know about myself until I went on stage and tried to share myself to the crowd or the world was a big part for me. I feel like I grew as a person doing that. there is absolutely nothing wrong with chasing something that makes you happy and knowing that it is possible. Like, I don't have a lot of success as far as like, you know, notoriety or whatever, but for me personally, I'm doing pretty freaking good for myself, and I think some of my work speaks for that. And not a lot of people know who I am at Tucson, but I know that there are people who do, there are venues who know who I am, and they know there are people who trust me to put on a good show whenever they need me. If those kids that I was working with saw, or if I could tell them right now what I'm doing, if I could tell those kids anything, it's just don't let being young ruin getting older. Fear is always a thing when you're young, but when you get older and you realize that fear was a silly thing to be scared of, just keep doing it, man. Don't let all that shit bug you down, because the adult you's gonna have to pay for it later. And have fun doing it. There's no use of doing something forever that you don't love. Well, why wouldn't you try doing something you love?
I'm gonna end with a true story, man. This is when I was going to college, when I had hopes and dreams. Yeah, you know. I was talking to this girl for like an hour before class. I had my cane and everything. She goes, "So, why do you have a cane?" So the first thing that came to my mind, I'm like, oh, it's because I'm deaf. She goes, "Really?" I was like, "Thank you, see you later." I took off. I don't want to deal with that shit, you know? So naturally, I took her home. And it's fucked up. There's no fun sexual sayings for a disabled guy, you know? Like, you always hear, once you go black, you never go back. You never hear, once you go blind, you don't know where you are. You know, no one's ever said that. And she didn't even wait till the next morning. She just goes, "So, is it contagious?" Right? That's fucked up. I didn't say shit, but 6 of my blind friends, they came out with hoods and canes and they go, "One of us, one of us, one of us." Now she thinks she's Mexican. My name is Tony BRUHN, guys. Thank you very much. Keep it going for your host, Manny, everybody.
All right, keep it going for Tony.
Attention all departments, please come to the back room for compactor. All departments to the back room for the compactor.
I went on a roller coaster of emotions and opinions and thoughts about what Greek life is, from, you know, baby Darius going through Rush and now being in a fraternity on the executive board and making decisions. I think that I've grown. Obviously, we all have this perception of what Greek life is through what we see on, you know, TV and movies and entertainment. And the fact that half of that stuff is real was jarring to me. And I didn't find that out until I got into a fraternity. So there were a couple experiences that I had during Rush that rubbed me the wrong way initially for a lot of the houses, actually. I'm talking to a guy in a house, and he asks me, you know, what dorm do you live in? Which is a common question that you get during Rush. And I was like, I live in La Paz. And he was like, oh, okay. I lived there last year. And I was like, oh, cool. And again, this is the first week that I'm living in La Paz. I'm like, how did you like it? So I can see what my experience is going to be. And he goes, yeah, I loved it. Like, I liked everything except for the fact that my roommate was a faggot. And I was literally like, what? In my mind, of course I can't be like, but then it made me think, like, does he know that I'm gay? Like, can he tell? Like, would he have said that if he knew that I was gay? Is that how they behave in this house? I think that was one of my awakening moments of, like, I'm in a space where I want the benefits of being in a fraternity, but I really don't belong here. This is how it is being a gay man in the fraternity. I can't even get shotgun. You didn't call it. No, it's fine. You didn't call it.
When I was joining college, I did not think at all that I would be in a Greek organization. I think just the perception of Greek orgs is so hypermasculine, like unfriendly to anything different, and very, not my vibe. But like finding orgs that are really open and create a sense of connection has been really, really fantastic. Delta Lambda Phi is a national fraternal organization that was founded by gay men for queer, non-binary, and progressive men all across the country. Our chapter at the U of A is really small. We have 8 members, but it's really a close-knit group of people.
So each semester before our recruitment season, we do tabling on the mall to get the word out there so people can know about our organization that might not know about it previously. More than one time, there have been situations where a group of straight guys would be walking by and then they'd kind of point over and laugh and kind of joke and be like, oh yeah, you should go up and pretend that you're interested, because people think that it's funny to associate with gay people. That's definitely something that we face in regards to backlash from people and just how we're perceived on campus overall.
So because being gay is like not accepted in Greek life, it's a target for people to make jokes or do things that are gay, and then everyone who's straight can laugh and like have this moment of like, oh, haha, that's gay. And for me, being a gay member, an actual gay member in the fraternity, sometimes it's difficult seeing that, you know, I'm the butt of the joke. Like, obviously, my whole identity isn't being gay, but when you have somebody, you know, doing things or doing something that, you know, is a part of your identity and it's always in a joke form, that makes you feel a certain type of way about that, right? And so I'll see guys who will kind of like fake kiss, or they will, you know, slap someone on the ass, or do something like that. And then for me, I often feel as though if I'm ever in the vicinity or in the room, I become the one who is like seeming homophobic. And what I mean by that is that I feel like I have to say, ew, gross, or like, ugh. Like, you know, I have to be the most disgusted because otherwise they think that I am the one who's enjoying it. Nowadays, people love to blame their mistakes on alcohol. And a lot of times people would come up to me and say, hey, so-and-so said this about you. So-and-so didn't like that you did this. So-and-so just said the F slur. They just said the N-word. And so I'm thinking now at this point, what's going on? I can't come into a predominantly white institution, being a black and gay person, sadly, going to a majority white fraternity and expect people not to say things behind my back. This is the culture of Greek life, far and wide, across the nation. And it's so crazy that, you know, I have to almost like be, what's the word? I have to be like expecting it at this point.
You look so pretty, wow.
Thank you.
Every year, our chapter holds a drag show as our fundraiser. It's called Divas in the Desert because the host is usually a local drag queen named Diva.
Be as generous as you can with everybody on stage. If you can tip, tip. If you can't tip, then cheer. Because it is very hard getting in front of judgmental hosts like you, okay?
We take the money and more recently have been using it to decrease the fees for people so that the payment isn't a barrier to people joining the organization. Our current chapter has a very large portion of it being trans masked people, which is very different from how the chapter has been previously.
This needs to be plugged in.
Over time, I think as more trans people joined, it's kind of like a chain reaction where people felt comfortable. And that was honestly one of the biggest reasons why I joined. Being part of DLP has made me appreciate the benefits of what a fraternal experience can really give you. It's very special when a brother makes milestones in their transition, because then someone says, oh, they just started T, and then it's like a whole really exciting thing, and then we all congratulate them. Or when I got top surgery, not this past summer, but the year before, it was just like really exciting to have people to share that with.
my advice to somebody who is a minority, whether that be, a gay person or a black person or any other person, if you're coming to a fraternity, you have to realize that you are going to have to root for yourself. You might want to experience and benefit things. You're going to hear some crazy things. You're going to experience some crazy things. And you have to be the one to say, hey, this is not okay, and here's why, and make them respect you, because you don't have it to when you're walking in there. In all aspects of life, even outside of Greek life, it all comes down to you and what you have the willpower to do and say in front of other people. Don't be scared to call out bad behavior.
I have found a group of people that I really love and that I really connect with. It can be about reaffirming your identity. It can be about making friends. I know that within our chapter, we help each other out, and just having somebody to count on is, I think, really, like when I say brother, I mean brother. I'm not just saying that. So I don't know. It's been a positive change about Greek life, at least within orgs that I interact with.
Tempe got an unfortunate history lesson today, learning that 3 schools in the city are named after individuals who were members of the Ku Klux Klan.
A sunset city like Tempe, Arizona, was completely segregated.
It was a sundown town. If you were black, when the sun was down, you needed to be out of Tempe.
We don't know precisely what year Tempe became known as a sundown town. That process most likely began in the late 1800s. Certainly, it would have been pretty well formed most likely by the 1920s. So a sundown town is one in which African Americans would work in Tempe during the day. But a sundown town was effectively, if you were African American, that you were supposed to be outside of Tempe by sundown. And it wasn't necessarily put, into written law, but it was something that would be a social structure and something that people were likely to be even harassed by law enforcement. In the early 1920s, there was a rise in the Ku Klux Klan, and Tempe, like other parts of the country, there was a rise with that as well. And in Tempe, the official Klan organization was known as Butte Klan Number 3. Tempe Butte Klan Number 3 would be active in Tempe from at least about 1921 until 1925. Now, it most likely was active beyond that.
There were indeed verified Butte Klan members here in Tempe, including Huey Laird, Clyde Gilliland, Harvey Harrelson.
Of course, the Klan at its core was always anti-African American. In other ways, they would certainly impact the racial climate overall in Tempe. Tempe organization built a large swimming pool in Tempe called Tempe Beach back in the mid-20s. I want to say it opened about 1924. And the pool from the beginning excluded folks from a variety of kind of racial and ethnic backgrounds, and including African Americans. Segregation extended onto the ASU campus. Black students would not have been able to get student housing the way many of their white counterparts did. Our African American residents now who went to ASU post-World War II era, who remember that they were not able to get student housing.
My wife was a teacher. She was going to ASU, but she couldn't stay there back in those days, so you had to get up in the morning and drive down there to the ASU parking lot and then go to class. But they couldn't stay in the dormitories. That was Tempe.
Part of the African American experience of what restaurant is friendly to black people. We know about the green books that for African American travelers especially, going across country, they would know what places were friendly to black visitors and black travelers. And the green books that I've seen as yet have not seen one of the old green books that had Tempe listed in it. Living in Tempe was something that was a challenge for potential black home buyers. Different housing subdivisions had racial covenants attached to them that specifically said this home cannot be sold or leased to African Americans. Those were some of the things that were really a key part of keeping black homeowners out of Tempe for many years. Residents like the Livingstons and Warren and Carol Livingston, even if you were a star, you still could run into problems.
We got this house because it was the only house we could get. In Tempe, they didn't want blacks. They didn't want to show us the house. You didn't have a chance.
We have the memories of a lot of residents who, when they went through the home buying process, the challenges they had, often they had some neighbors who didn't want them to be there.
One morning, my mother got ready to get into her car. She found all kinds of racial slurs written on her car window like, "And go home," and "You're not wanted in this neighborhood." Plus, they poured sugar in her gas tank. We never found out who did this to us.
In the 1960s and 70s, Tempe's status as a sundown town would slowly start to fade and kind of break up. What would help to break some of this, of course, you had nationally, you had the civil rights movement that was impacting things. June of 1964, Reverend Martin Luther King comes to speak at Arizona State University at Goodwin Stadium. But again, the university itself, even with its issues, would be one of those wedges that would help open up Tempe to ultimately Tempe's African American community. Our African American residents who talked about moving to Tempe, it was, hey, we know Tempe is a great place to live. We want to live there too. Our African American residents are very proud of their efforts to be called Tempeans like everybody else.
2016 Catalina Island trip was one for the ages.
The Catalina Island trip was pretty terrible.
I vaguely remember crawling around on my hands and knees in a very small, closed space.
Everything that could have gone wrong did. From bison attacks, ear infections, windows being smashed, and undrinkable water.
Yeah, you had to water it down with, like, juice.
The trip was bad, and generally, anyone who remembers the trip would agree it was a mess.
I had a lot of fun, and I felt like I learned a lot, too.
At the center of the disaster was a smashed phone in a boys' dorm that had ripple effects for years to come.
But why would a simple phone cause so much friction between 8th graders that it would lead to probably years of therapy and ugly truths getting revealed? Well, it boils down to two people.
Hi, I'm Jackson Huffman.
Hi, my name's Rene Marcelle.
And a feud. That's us.
To really understand the situation, you have to look at the 11-year history between Jackson and Rene. And you may be thinking that's a little ridiculous. It is, and we had to get our old friends who went on the trip to explain it.
8th grade Jackson, he was super happy all the time, pretty all-around good guy.
I remember him always helping me feel a little bit better whenever I was having a rough day.
The answers for Jackson were generally positive and had an air of nostalgia to them. But with Rene,
It was a difficult time to be your friend.
No, not a bad person at all.
He had more of a mixed reception from our friends. Nobody knows exactly how the feud started.
Yeah, so I was good friends, both with Rene and Jackson, but there was definitely some sticky situations.
We could get along in small doses, but certainly not on a field trip where we were over 400 miles away from home.
I don't know, it just seemed like a bubble waiting to burst at this point.
Right.
As we established earlier, the Catalina Island trip was not a good time. Morale was low, exhaustion was at a high, and things were not much better in the rooms. There were 7 boys forced to cram inside of a room that was meant for 4 people.
Our group is actually too large to fit in any of the rooms. Then they offered us a teacher room.
And it was spacious enough, but not spacious enough for 7 boys.
And now the room was cramped while also having some interesting geography.
Yeah, I remember there was a front doorway and then just bunk beds on either side.
There's only a few feet of walking room in the middle of the room. We brought in 1 mattress for our 7th member.
And then I was on a mattress in the corner all alone, not like I'm on an island or anything. Anyway.
But the key thing about this room was the window, as it wasn't just a window, but a point of entry and exit.
That window also happened to be placed directly above the one power outlet in the room.
There was 2 slots, and people had to basically fight for the chance to charge their devices.
Things were not looking good.
Definitely a recipe for disaster.
So what the hell happened? With ear infections, bison, bad water, cramped rooms, and wet clothes, what was the breaking point that made this trip completely irredeemable?
In the middle of the night or something, it was cracked.
Why, out of all the bad things that happened on this trip, was a phone getting smashed the worst thing that could have happened?
Rene was, as you could imagine, quite audibly upset.
It wasn't just anybody's phone. It was Rene's.
Pure anger.
Kind of like a bomb waiting to explode, really.
Well, shit. And now instead of it being a cramped room of 7 friends, it was now a cramped room with 6 suspects and a monster.
What the fuck? What the fuck? How did this happen? What's going on? Someone fucking did this, is the vibe I got.
Tensions were at an all-time high, and finger-pointing was afoot.
There's a lot of wild accusations.
Everyone was a suspect.
I can only assume, or at least at the time I had only assumed that someone had accidentally stepped on as they went out the window.
I knew somebody in that room had done it, though, and I'm pretty sure, well, I know it wasn't me, so.
Rene was lobbing accusation after accusation at everybody in that room, and things were starting to look dire.
Still, no one was fessing up, nothing was happening, no progress was being made.
Enter the feud. It gave everyone an out. If Jackson did it, there was no new conflicts created.
I thought, what's one more straw on the camel's back?
So a false confession was the way to go.
I told Rene that I saw that Jackson did it, even though that I hadn't actually seen it happen, because it didn't.
And that was that.
The confession should have worked. Rene had an answer, everyone could enjoy the rest of their trip, and Jackson got to be the nice guy.
You tried to make a sacrifice so that we could all enjoy the trip a bit more.
But did it work?
Even if it didn't work.
I think it made the tension between you guys worse.
Now, instead of the brunt of the problem being on everybody, it was solely on Jackson, and Rene's rage grew. Now, the feud between them had gotten worse going into high school. Rene could be as brutal to Jackson as he wanted because of the phone, and he had no way to defend himself. And eventually, Jackson got fed up and left the group.
But before Jackson left the group, he made sure to tell Rene that he didn't step on the phone.
This revelation made things worse for the people who stayed in the group, because now the investigation was back with a vengeance.
Everything just kind of came crumbling down after that. Kind of OG Coronado gang that we had going on was kind of falling apart. And at a certain point, people just said, I'm not going to associate with Rene anymore.
Everyone was on their own, and maybe that was for the best.
From that point on, we all kind of started growing up a little bit more and going our own ways.
Well, that's it. Show's over.
Scene 10A, take 3, Mark.
Not quite. Jackson and Rene were able to start working together in film classes. They didn't fight when it came to film, and after a little bit of time, they decided to drag Catalina Island back up and mount a whole new investigation.
And finally discover who stepped on the phone.
I'm Jackson Huffman.
My name is Adrian.
Skylar Kaufman. I confess to the crime of smashing the phone.
And the issue with that is?
I did not.
Sadly, we never found out who did it.
Strangely though, after all these years, everyone had the same answer.
Skylar. He came to me in a confession.
And I was just talking with Skylar about it. And then he came forward and told me that he was the one who did it.
Skylar. Skylar was seemingly at the center of everything. His bed was right next to the phone.
The two people closest to the phone were Jackson and Skylar.
He was going in and out of the window.
I went in and out of the window too, right?
And he was the person who insisted Rene stepped on his own phone.
He was blaming Rene. He was blaming like everyone else for...
It all makes sense. Except there's one tiny problem with the confession.
I don't remember saying that to anyone.
He didn't do it. Since the beginning, Skylar's been consistent in saying he didn't step on the phone.
Could have been any of us, really.
He was my best friend for 7 years. I don't think he's ever like lied in his entire life.
Skylar doesn't lie. And because of that, the one theory that everyone could agree on, including us, turned out to be worthless because he didn't step on the phone. Was this documentary a waste of time? Kind of. We set out to investigate the question of who stepped on the phone, but we needed to deal with a larger issue.
It's been a larger deal than it probably should have been for a very long time. And for it to end like this would be a bit unsatisfying. But here we are.
The whole incident was bigger than it should have been. It's been 6 years since the trip. We interviewed all of the key players involved, and we even made a documentary about this exact incident before, and we still couldn't crack who did it. What went wrong? The investigation should have ended 10 minutes after it started, but everyone handled the situation poorly. Rene made the investigation about suffering, Jackson's false confession derailed the conversation, the group made an entire conspiracy to avoid the truth, and everyone tried to distance themselves from the investigation. Because nobody wanted to admit the obvious answer, except for one person.
I've never known if it was me or not. I will say that it's possible. Anything could have happened, but I was not the only one going in and out of that window that day.
The truth that everybody was looking for will never come because it doesn't exist. The real answer was staring us in the face the entire time. It could have been anybody.
You know, back in the day, back in the 50s, HAYDEN got an award, All-American City, believe it or not. And they used to have that posted up at City Hall. And for a small town community, we had just about anything you ever needed. We had a car dealership, we had grocery stores, we had clothing stores, a TV store, a drugstore, a movie theater. By far, a lot more people. Our neighborhoods were full of kids everywhere, everybody employed. All the houses were lived in. It was a great place to grow up. I mean, if I could do it all over again, I wouldn't change a thing, you know. And it's funny because I'll tell the stories to my kids, you know, and they're like, yeah, right. And I'm like, we had all that. And unfortunately now, you know, it's gone, you know.
Whenever I was a kid, there was still stuff open, and the community was at least a little bit like bigger than how it is now. Because I'm not gonna lie, a lot of people have passed away who have actually lived in this town, and I'm not gonna. It's just them. It's them and like their grandkids and their kids and those kids who are making kids. That's basically what's making this town. From like the time that like now that I'm older, I've seen a lot of people want to do more for the town. So like it's kind of getting better, but it's still kind of weird. It's kind of crappy. All of my siblings, including me, we've lived here our entire lives, and we've always just talked about leaving. It's not like an option to just stay here because we don't see what we want to do here.
Like down the street here, we had like a little CD store. They had like movies, and there was a grocery store right in front of that, and that entire lot is now empty. There was a bar in town, and it's like shut down. There was another restaurant over here and a store, and the restaurant burned down, and the store is no longer open. Lately, there's been some rumors about an arsonist because down in HAYDEN, there's like I think it was a school. It was an old school, and somebody burned it. A fire started just recently. Everyone thinks it's purposeful, like they did it on purpose. Yeah, uptown there's been a lot of fires. There was a store in HAYDEN that burned too. So, people do think there's like an arsonist going around. My stepdad worked in the mine, actually. He enjoyed it in a sense. Like he would tell me stuff about it, and he would be tired. It was really hard being there, and like getting older, it was getting more difficult. But the pay wasn't enough. The union started, and the strike happened, and it was kind of just a loss. A part was like kind of like not really relieved, but like proud, like good, because they wanted better wages. Like for everything that they were doing, they weren't getting paid enough. He would come home sometimes and his hands would be like throbbing and his feet would be throbbing, and he would just want to rest. And there was like a couple times where he couldn't make it to work because he was having like breathing problems from everything. He would take like his own little like bandana and he would cover his face with that, and like half of his face would be like all dirty, and the part that was covered, whenever he would take it off, it would be the only clean thing.
In school, they wouldn't let us drink out of the water fountains because that they found like the lead and all that stuff. They forbade us from drinking water, and they gave us water bottles. In the back of the restaurant, like right there, that you can see like a lot of like those dirt and all that piles. And normally they're supposed to hose it with water every 6 hours. But whenever the strike happened, there was nobody to actually do that. And during that time, it was really windy, and those chemicals can actually like harm somebody in their breathing. Recently it was getting windy again, and since there's nobody there to actually like hold them down, like the dust will just get everywhere, and so that's what's been happening normally. The only complaint that the town has made is just like if they don't do it, they'll get fined, but they don't really mind, they don't care.
The cancer rate, of course, was always real high here. Just about everybody that I've known who's ever worked in the mine, lucky to live 8 years, when they retired. 5 was like a norm. The union has things they bring up, and of course ARCO ain't gonna agree with it, so they went on strike, but it turned out for the worst, it seemed like this time, We struggle, our budgets in the town of HAYDEN it's not what it used to be, so we do the best we can with what we got, It'd be nice if the mine would partake in helping the community better itself as well, but it's been challenging, and we hope the mines do pick up. That way, hopefully we could get some people back.
Pretty butter.
Memories are never linear and clear. They're snapshots of something that was vivid and real at the time. Now they're dulled. The colors muted, the sounds muffled. Just a ghost of what used to be there. I grew up in a small town many might not know about. A place some may find beautiful and charming. Others might find it boring and lonely. That's how I saw it. People like to romanticize their childhoods.
Santa Claus.
What about when you're opening?
Flippy Santa Claus.
No, when you're openings for Mom and Dad.
How they ran free without a care in the world.
You're right. Can you run fast?
Yeah.
You want to run for me?
Uh-huh.
I'll do it.
I ran free, but I had to fend for myself. Those bright moments captured on camera could never capture how it really was to grow up there. How I felt every day. The house I grew up in sat in the middle of nowhere. It wasn't the suburban neighborhood that people might imagine. The staircase would creak every time I'd walk on it. I'd sit in the bathtub watching the daddy long legs on the ceiling, hoping they wouldn't fall on my face. It's ironic how lonely I could feel there, even if I knew I wasn't. I saw with my own eyes people from the past looking at me like I didn't belong there. The doorbell would go off constantly, but no one was ever there. In a way, these ghosts are like my memories. Just the remnant of something that used to be there. Living and breathing, now cold and dead. Except they inflict a kind of pain that nothing else can. This darkness that rolls over that I wish I could forget or get rid of, but I can't. So, I go on living. Hoping certain memories don't rise from the ground and catch up with me. Now is all I truly have.
Ice cold Coca-Cola. There's no waistline worry with Coke, you know. Clean a kitchen sink.
Your grandpa's television had 4:3 aspect ratio, which is almost square. And then when high-def TVs came in, it went 16:9.
I'm in a tight head. Nice pants.
Then with Facebook stories and Instagram stories, the aspect ratio went to 9:16.
I'm going to give you a special and exclusive look at the butt.
There's an infinite amount of influencers doing your ads, and you have to tap into something, into the zeitgeist of what people are thinking.
This quiz is really scary. Probably didn't really great, but I really wanted to.
Do I consider myself an influencer? I guess so. I mean, I kind of got into influencing kind of at the birth of it, right? Like a renaissance in advertising and the way that people sort of use the internet to sell things. I remember there was this dating app called Badoo, and they were like, we'll give you $5,000 to make a Vine. And within 30 seconds of posting, I get an alert, $5,000 has just hit your PayPal account. I text my girlfriend and I was like, let's go on vacation. And so I fed the machine. I made more videos. Every day I would make a video. I didn't know what I was doing. I did fear that I was like, is this corny? Does this cheapen me as an actor, which is kind of like my deep, true love and passion? You know that you're signing up for something that's going to be inconsistent and challenging and fear-inducing in moments. You're not like, I was gonna go work at Microsoft, but then I said, screw it, I'm gonna make videos for YouTube.
I think the word influencer really got a bad rap. I might usually say content creator more often because it sounds like, I do a little more than just post pictures of myself shopping. My growth on social media all started with a TED Talk I delivered in 2017, bringing light to the various challenges that student athletes face. And that for me was depression and anxiety.
I look happy, right? Because no one posts what they don't want you to see.
Brands, I think, have a lot of power and influence, and they want to market, and they're deciding that instead of paying, millions of dollars for one commercial that's going to air on these networks, we'd rather break that up into 8 parts and pay these influencers who each have 500,000 followers who are really engaged. We think that's a better place for our money than a commercial that might play in the background of a household where we don't really know how specific we can get with this ad.
Here's the real secret. Eye contact.
We know if a certain person is, female, male of a certain age, but it's important to a brand to know that their audience also fits within that target. They become our creative team almost. So we brief them on our overall client ask. So what is it that the client wants to communicate? What is our campaign? But ultimately what we love is when they come to us and say, you just spurred something in my mind talking about your campaign. My audience would love it if I did something like this.
And as much as there's a little clause that says but make it your own. Make sure it feels authentic to you at the end. It's like, okay, it's hard to be authentic and execute the 17 bullet points you've sent me. Fortunately, I work with a lot of really cool brands and I'm able to say, I love this idea. Here's how I think it would perform best on my page.
There's some influencers who are just naturals where you're talking to them in a kickoff call and they instantly can just start riffing off of creative ideas.
Rolling. Ready? Raindrop, drop top. Hashtag blessed. Zach and Cody. No luck. Seriously, no luck. This is my scouting tape. Oh, sure. I'm trying to get a scholarship. Josh, you're 30. I'm not going to hold myself back so you can feel comfortable. Sorry, it's not how I'm built. You know what I mean? Stars are supposed to shine. They shine bright in the sky from miles away. They're farther than the sun, but you could see them. You know what I mean? You know what I mean. I know you know. Raindrops.
I remember we were on a kickoff call with Josh Peck once for a March Madness program, and just offhandedly we were like, oh, there's gonna be foam fingers there, and he stopped us and was like, I got it. Anything with a foam finger, my audience loves it. Don't worry about it.
Foam finger? That finger should belong to me.
He grabbed a foam finger, he stood in front of a car, and it was his top post. Like something we would have never thought about, but he knew what he was doing. He knows his audience, he knows his thing, and he did it, and it was awesome.
A perfect week for me would be a Monday where I'm doing phone calls and admin work and emails. Tuesdays and Thursdays, in a perfect world, I have nothing booked because it's content creation and I'm creating and editing videos. Wednesdays are my podcast days and I might have 3 interviews in a day. Fridays is like miscellaneous. Any of the junk that couldn't be fit in, and that is how it would look if it was perfect. It is not always like that. It's really important to create good relationships with these brands. Something that I love to do is kind of tease a sponsored post before it happens. So if I know that next month I'm posting about blue juice, I might casually weave that into some of my content this month so that when I do the ad in 4 weeks, people are like, oh, we've seen this before. Oh, she likes this brand. How cool that she gets to work with them. I pretty much never want to post something sponsored and have my audience be like, we've never seen Victoria associated with this.
In the first couple of years, a lot of deals I just did on my own because, to put it frankly, agencies weren't terribly interested. I mean, they'd happily take a cut of your money, but they were kind of like, what is this thing? Like, we're worried about the big things. And I was like, well, this is gonna be a big thing.
I've been doing this for over 20 years, and every couple of years people say how the traditional commercial is gonna go away. And yet it doesn't. Traditional commercials and commercials with influencers, they're not mutually exclusive. If you had a pizza of advertising, it's not like a regular pizza. It's a magic pizza. The pizza just gets bigger. You can have an infinite amount of influencers doing your ads and still make traditional commercials.
Influencing is kind of like the Silicon Valley of 2022. You're seeing every industry be impacted by, do you have a brand? Modeling used to just be like, what's your look and are you fit for this designer? And now it's, well, do you have an Instagram following? Because if we put you in our runway show, are they gonna come watch?
Television and movies, when they cast, they will look at the actor's number of followers and see if they have some influence. That is a part of it now.
It's to the point where there's gonna be a few thousand diehard people who are like, I want to follow the baby of this creator I love to follow. And then I find the Instagram handle and I save it for my future child that I'm about to have. And then now you have a 1-week-old that has 10,000 followers that'll just continue to grow. And then when they're 16, 17, 18 one day, they might inherit an account that already has 30, 40, 50,000 people following it that they can then monetize. And it is interesting how powerful it is to have an audience following you.
Sometimes I think of myself as a micro niche influencer. I just touch the lives of very few people, but I really make an impression. First American influencer, probably Benjamin Franklin. He had a newsletter. He invented the post office and the mail system. Put his face on a nickel. I think he's on a nickel. He was one of the first.
I'm Orland Sledge.
And where are you at right now? What city?
I'm at Tucson, Arizona. I am 10 years old. My favorite things are art. I like making things out of clay. I like to fly.
So you think someday you're going to be a pilot?
Yes. Yes, I do.
My name is Oral Sledge. I am the single African-American parent of a 10-year-old daughter named Orlan. Her mother chose a permanent abandonment. I am all she has. I learned all I needed to know, continued to guide and plan for her future, doing all I can on a fixed income, and emphasizing my earnest desire to give her more than I had, to provide unique and fruitful opportunities that would allow her the financial freedom I never have experienced yet in my lifetime.
My name is Alex Barker. I am the chief flight instructor here at Flight Compton. What I do here, like teaching the ground school or whatever, that's cool, but I just like taking them up. And that gets me going because coming in without any experience or know-how of what to do, to take off, to fly around, and to land the airplane, that does something for you. It did something for me. I just want to share that experience for other folks when they are first starting their journey. I want to give them a positive experience from the very start. That's what gets me going.
Do you guys know what speed you're at on these legs?
Flying the kids, and I think like at the very end, especially seeing the young ladies, the little girls, they're surprised that there's like a female pilot. So they're like, wait, you fly too? They don't ever think that I'm a pilot. So it's good to be kind of like inspiring to them and just let them know that this is possible for people who didn't think like aviation could be for them. I didn't know aviation could be for me either. I didn't have a parent or grandparent, anybody in the industry. And I'm sure a lot of the youth today here in Compton especially like doesn't have that, may not have that. So just to let them know that it's achievable for them also. It doesn't matter who you are, where you came from, you can do this too.
The family type atmosphere, you can never replace that. You know, a lot of times there are situations where folks are not able to come together, make it work. And there's consistency in the same children, the same parents coming in, which shows that they're serious about their kids' future and that we can work with that and grow. But the family atmosphere is what I love, that flight company is what I grew up with.
Some of the barriers that I had to overcome in aviation, one was really the main one, the big one was representation. I didn't see any black pilots. I did, initially I had never met a black pilot anytime I traveled on an airline. A lot of times you feel like you don't belong because you don't see someone who looks like you there.
I think that's what Flight Compton Foundation is big on, is exposure. In most communities, you just don't see it. So I think that that's imperative, especially for children, because their foundation can be built very early, where it's normal. It should be normal. We should all be able to get to the same heights, and as long as the resources are provided in areas like this, we'll be able to do that.
My future goals are to become an actor and a private pilot. Those are some of the things that Flight Compton has inspired me.
Master switch.
Master switch right here. Let's turn that on.
On. Beacon.
Beacon. That's telling everybody, watch out, this airplane's about to turn on. So I turn that on. So, before takeoff checklist is complete. Let's take a runway. Compton traffic, Cherokee 43241, taking runway 25 right. Left hands traffic. Okay, cool. So, since things go a little fast, I tend to just have this stuff memorized in the flow. So what we just did, doors and windows closed and locked, seats and seatbelts adjusted and fastened. We have lights, camera, and action. Good. So I'm going to give it full power.
Because I love my daughter. because I want her heart to heal, because I love the sense of family that we both feel when we go to Compton. We continue to make this 1,000-mile round trip and have committed to make all required in-person meetings for her until the day she takes her pilot's test in 5 years and a few months from now. It's all about love.
Roll your arms, roll your arms, roll your arms to the rhythm now. Roll your arms, to the rhythm now. Wiggle your body to the rhythm now. Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. We already had Monday. We already had Tuesday. We already had Wednesday. Yesterday was Thursday, and today is
Friday!
Today is Friday!
Yeah, let's go play all together! I forgot my hat at home.
Did you forget your hat at home?
Yeah.
I think we have extra. Do you want to go check? We do need a hat outside, I know that. We have an extra one at home, or in our shelf. Would you like to go see? We can go check.
Yeah, sometimes the ocean is super duper hot.
Yeah, like in Mexico, sometimes in Mexico, the water is kind of warm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Once when I was at Rocky Point, I saw a shark.
Really?
Yeah.
Do you know what kind of shark you saw?
I saw a great white and a hammerhead shark.
Wow. Were they big or were they little?
They're big. They're giant. The great white shark is the king of the sharks. I need some too.
Okay, you can turn it on. Make sure you guys stand them up upright so that the water can flow. Alden, fix your water, please. Alden, fix your water, please. It's not upright. Sand can get inside the straw part.
Walk on the sidewalk, please.
Oh, thank you, Oliver, for fixing those water bottles.
Are you taking pictures?
What else do you have?
A mango boiled egg, peanut butter jelly cookie biscuit. I had the same bag. We kind of have the same bag. Mine had Mama put it. Look at how mine.
He's not ready yet, but I said in a little bit. Keep it in the table. He just dropped a saguaro on Keep it on the table, Alden.
Spell one. You spell Oliver. No, she is having bubble ovarian cancer. Papa does.
1 minute, Sunroom. 1 minute.
There's tape in my lunchbox. Gonna